Hello everyone, my name is Chen. In today's video, I would like to share some of my experiences working in big law firms as a corporate associate and why I chose to leave. Whether you are someone looking to work for a big law or just curious in this area, I hope this will be useful to you. I will break this video down into 3 parts. First, a quick background about myself since this is my first YouTube video. Second, I will go through some of my expectations before joining Big Law and whether any of them came true. And lastly, the reasons behind my recent departure. If you have any questions or are interested in any particular parts of this video, please let me know by leaving a comment below. Now let's get started. I was born in Mongolia and grew up in China, and I was very fortunate to have received my legal education both in China and here in the US. I graduated from law school in the US back in 2015 and immediately started my career as an in-house counsel for a major financial institution. While there, I've always felt the need to go further. So in 2016, I made the lateral transition to a big law firm based in New York City. For the past 4.5 years, I've worked for 2 different big law firms in New York City and Hong Kong as a mergers and acquisition lawyer, and it's been one of the most rewarding yet challenging experiences in my life so far. I've recently quit without really a plan in mind, so here we are. The biggest motivation and expectation that got me into big law in the first place was my desire to get the best-in-class professional training and to accelerate my learning curve. Ever since a young age, I've always had this gnawing fear of standing still while others have moved on. I felt that I needed the right environment to force me to pick up the pace, or I would become too complacent with the job I had. Well, I definitely got what I wished for. In the past 4.5 years, I received the best kind of training I could possibly have imagined. More specifically, I had the opportunity to work with some of the best legal professionals in the world, see how they work, and probably most importantly, see how they handle difficult situations arising from the deals on hand. Knowledge can be supplemented, but this is priceless. But what made the world of difference to me was a constant feedback system from my team, where all my weaknesses were laid bare as if we are dissecting through a case study. It's rough, but in retrospect, all the more worthwhile. So if you have someone who just started out in the legal profession and crave for a deep learning curve, I definitely suggest exploring the big law path, or at least give it a try. Now, you can't possibly think I will leave out the crazy long working hours from my list of expectations. This is probably the hallmark of what most people think of big law, and this is absolutely true. Compared to a normal 9-to-5 job, you don't really have any fixed time off here. Instead, you are expected to monitor your work email pretty much all the time. I was lucky that for both firms I worked with, there was no FaceTime requirement. This means that we were not required to be around in the office during certain time periods of the day. Regardless of this requirement, the need to be constantly on call has certainly made every single aspect of my social life challenging. Imagine not being able to keep firm appointments or promises because you simply don't know when you need to jump back to your laptop. Or even if you are out with your friends or family, there's this constant reminder that you may need to excuse yourself the very next moment because of work. I was fortunate to have met my husband before I got into big law, but we would still joke from time to time that there will be virtually no way for us to end up together if we were dating while I was working at a big law. As tough as it was, I do think the hours and my growth trajectory go hand in hand, and that only when you are fully committed to your trade can you fully appreciate the work you are doing and grow as a professional. When I look back, there's definitely a linear positive correlation between the intensity of a deal I worked on and the amount of the reward and professional gratification I derived from it. Speaking of long hours, I think one of the myths about it is that you will have to work long hours all the time. It's actually not true. During my time in the M&A practice, Even though I worked long hours for most of the time, there were certainly periods of downtime after every busy period, which typically revolves around a large transaction. There may also be stretches of time where the deal flow slows down, and I've found occasions where I was able to head home and make meal with my husband around 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Good times. In terms of expectations, we'll definitely need to talk about all the glamour associated with big law. During the past 4.5 years, I've certainly got pretty much everything I had dreamed about, and more. It's a good life on the surface, but also a double-edged sword. Let me be concrete here. The nature of my practice as a corporate associate involves a lot of tedious work, oftentimes requiring tremendous amount of patience and perseverance. Especially as a young attorney, depending on the culture and the structure of your team, you won't necessarily be able to see the full pictures of the transactions you are working on, or understand the implications of your work. It's more likely the case if you're working with a big team with multiple layers of hierarchy, or if everyone on the team is simply too busy to take in the full picture or explain it to you. As a result, it's very easy to feel like a small cog on the wheel, and without a clear picture in mind, you'll be left wondering why you are doing the work you do in the first place. Now, it does get better as you become more senior and take more responsibilities among team members, but the whole process takes time and patience. Just remember, it's nothing like how TV portrays Wall Street lawyers, if that's what you're looking for. Now, why did I leave? To be completely transparent, there's an important personal reason that triggered my departure. Earlier this year, I got my green card approval, and therefore, I will need to go back to the US within the time window given to us. Since living in the US is our long-term plan, going back has always been part of our plan. It's only sooner or later. If I didn't get approval earlier this year, I probably wouldn't have quit yet. But on the other hand, I could also have requested internal transfer to one of the US offices of the firm, or just try to find another job. But I didn't do so, and here is why. Perhaps not surprisingly, I wanted to take a break. Prior to joining Big Law, I was quite certain of my ambitions. But during the past several years, I was given plenty of opportunities to discover who I am as a person and what my body needs. I had to learn it the hard way when I developed a condition called stress-induced eczema. I'm a morning person, and my body hates late nights, especially all-nighters, and I will protest against my working schedule by throwing up itchy patches across my body. Later in my career, I would have developed ways to offset the negative effects from late nights, whether by developing efficient workflow or getting better at directing and delegating tasks to junior associates. However, the simple reality is that you just cannot avoid long nights, no matter what you do. It's part of the job and something that we need to be okay with. So in the end, I chose to prioritize what my body is telling me over my work. The other major reason for my departure has to do with how I think about time and the possibilities. Being an M&A lawyer is a highly specialized trade, and as I continue to grow in that profession, I'm often left wondering whether there are any other things I can do or excel at. This desire became ever more evident recently. Who would I be, and what would I do if I'm not an M&A lawyer? I'm sure, like many other professionals in the world, we can grow so attached to our job or profession that it may seem to define who we are as an individual. So without it, who or what will be? I don't know. Maybe this is why I'm here on YouTube, to find out what else I can be and what else I can accomplish when I no longer have a profession or a label that defines me. I also want to acknowledge that this is a privilege to be afforded the opportunity to find other possibilities, and it certainly is not something I would take for granted. Alright, that's all about this video. Thank you so much for staying until the end. If you have any questions or would like to share your experiences as well, please leave a comment below.